Hello and welcome to this basic macroeconomics revision course. I am your teacher Muhammad Nadeem Sarwar. Today we shall start our second topic, the classical theory of income and employment. This is our first lecture on this topic. The reference books for today's lecture are Macroeconomics Theories and Policies by Richard T. Frein and Macroeconomics by N. Gregory Menker. Today, we shall have an introduction to classical school of thought. We shall discuss its main assumptions. We shall discuss Say's law and classical thoughts about production and labor market. The rest of the topics will be covered in next lecture. So, let's start with the lecture. Students, the classical school of thought of economy provides insight into economy when it operates at or near full employment. The classical model was first attempt to explain the determinants of national level of real GDP, the determinants of price level, employment, savings, and investment. Adam Smith, J.B. Say, David Ricardo, John Stuart Mill, Thomas Malthus, A.C. Pigot, and other economists provided the basis of this school of thought from 1970s to 1930s. They assumed that perfect competition exists in the economy, which ensures that all the prices, that is, the prices of goods and services, the wages, the interest rate, etc., are flexible. Therefore, the economy is always at full employment. They also assume that there is no role of the government in economy. The economic system is automatic and it can solve every problem and tackle every issue it faces without the intervention of government. People are motivated by self-interest. Therefore, their decisions are based on maximizing their interests fully. That is, consumers maximize utility and producers maximize profits. And lastly, they assumed that people cannot be fooled by money illusion. Therefore, only real variables, that is, real income, real wages, real output level, employment level, etc., matter. Say's law. Students, Say's law is based on the thoughts of famous economist J.B. Say, and it says that supply creates its own demand. It means producing goods and services generate the means and willingness to purchase other goods and services. That is, in order to produce more, the firms require more inputs. That is, more labors, more capital, more energy, etc. This increases the income of the households, which in turn increases their consumption as well as the demand of investment funds for the firms. Therefore, the aggregate demand in the economy also increases. So, we can say that supply creates its own demand. And because the supply creates its own demand, hence the desired expenditures will always be equal to actual expenditures, and thus the economy will always remain at full employment. Let's take an example of a simple economy of two persons who exchange goods with themselves. To understand this, assume that there are two persons in an economy. One is cobbler who makes shoes and other makes clothes. Now the cobbler will need clothes and the person who make clothes will also need shoes. So cobbler will produce more shoes than his requirement. Similarly, the cloth producer will produce more clothes than his required. Then the cobbler will exchange some of shoes made by him with the cloths made by cloth producer. Therefore, both persons will have some shoes and some cloths. So, in an economy, every person will have to work to produce goods not only for himself but also to obtain other goods. A person who will not work will not only have goods to, to consume, but he will also not have goods for exchange. Therefore, everybody will have to work and economy will remain at the point of full employment. Now we discuss aggregate production. Students, the total output produced in an economy is determined by the capital stock, which includes machinery, equipment, and buildings, and the quantity of labor in an economy. This aggregate production function, which shows that total output of an economy by using inputs of labor and capital. Mostly, the capital is assumed to be exogenously fixed, and thus labor is only factor that influences the level of output in an economy, as shown. So, because of fixed capital, increasing labor, the output will increase at a decreasing rate, as shown in the diagram. Note that increasing unit of labors from 1 to 2 and then from 2 to 3 and then from 3 to 4 increases the output, but the increment is decreasing. This increment in output because of increase in labor is called marginal production of labor. Now the labor market. Students, firm demand labors to produce output and household supply labor to earn income. We know that firms in a competitive market will increase output until MC is equal to MR. MC, that is marginal cost of each additional unit, is the marginal labor cost because capital is fixed, and the marginal labor cost is wage rate divided by marginal production of labor. Also, we know that in perfect competition, at equilibrium, price is equal to marginal revenue. Sorry, it is equal irrespective if the firms are operating at equilibrium or somewhere other. So, for profit maximization, MC must be equal to MR, and MC is monetary wage rate divided by marginal productivity of labor, and marginal revenue is equal to prices. Rearranging, we get marginal production of labor is equal to W over price. And this marginal production of labor represents labor demand, and thus labor demand is a function of real wage rate, and the relation between two is negative. This is shown in the diagram, where we plot marginal production of labor on y-axis and labor quantity on x-axis. The values of marginal production of labor are derived from the graph represented previously. Next is labor supply. As told, labor supply comes from households. Individuals sacrifice their leisure time and work to earn income and consume goods. Real wage rate is the opportunity cost of leisure. So, higher the real wage rate, less the leisure will be demanded, and more will be the labor supply. Therefore, labor supply is also the function of real wage rate, and the relation between two is increasing. As shown in this diagram, the labor market is in equilibrium, or the real wage rate is set at a point where labor demand is equal to labor supply. This sets how much labor will be available in economy to work. Note that at equilibrium wage rate, the number of people willing to work as represented by labor supply curve are equal to number of people demanded for work as represented by labor demand curve. Therefore, there will be no unemployment in the society. Now, as we assumed that labor is only factor that influences the output level, so if labor market is allowed to work freely, then the level of output achieved by the economy will be Y bar, and this is the level of output at full employment level. Students, classical economists believe that prices and wages are fully flexible. That is, if price level increases, the firms increase the level of monetary wages. and if price level decreases, it results in decreasing monetary wage rate. Therefore, the real wages remain the same. And as the labor demand and labor supply are the function of real wage rate, so they will also remain the same. The level of employment will always be at full employment. Therefore, increasing or decreasing the prices will not affect the output level in the economy. And the level of output in the economy will always be at full potential or at full employment level as shown by Y bar. This leads to vertical aggregate supply curve. Now, just for understanding, we are revising the unemployment, which represents a situation when people are willing and able to work, but they are unable to find a work for themselves. There are three important categories. One, frictional unemployment, which represents a situation when people leave a job just to find a more suitable job. And in between switching, it takes time to find new jobs and thus people are unemployed temporarily. Other is structural unemployment, which is because of mismatch between the skills that are demanded in the market by the firms and the skills that workers have. Third is cyclical unemployment, which is because of economic recession. And by full employment, we mean no cyclical unemployment. That is all for today's lecture. In the next lecture, we shall discuss the determination of saving and investment and the determination of price level in classical school of thought. Please consider liking and sharing the video and subscribing the channel. Thank you and goodbye.